Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. It's November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving. And we just got a little bit of recent snow in the Central Cascades, but there's not that much snow, especially on the west side, below tree line. So you might see a little bit of fresh snow if you're out for a hike or something this weekend in most areas, but really not that much for this time of year. So the snow water equivalent, this is Snowtell site for Easy Pass, which is our highest and snowiest site in the North Cascades, a little bit above 5,000 feet. And you can see that it was approaching, all-time highs back at the end of October, November. This goes back about 20 years, this data. Um, and it's really just kind of gone flat since then. So we've had some warmer storms, we've had some dry periods, and at least at elevation above 5K, we haven't lost too much. However, at the lower elevations, it's a totally different story. So this was the SNOTEL snow water equivalent percentages back on November 6th. We had some very robust numbers, but when you're looking at early November, I mean, you're comparing to historical record where typically median is basically nothing. So, I mean, we always knew to take this with a grain of salt. Things can change very fast in November. This is it today. So the higher elevations, the very highest hotel sites, are actually still doing okay. So Easy Pass, Hearts Pass, still like around typical. But you can see that our lower elevations are primarily not doing well. But again, it's still early in the season. So we had a recent storm yesterday that kind of hit the Central Cascades and the East Slopes pretty hard. We had some closures at Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass. They saw a good amount of snow, but then kind of transitioned into a warmer period with maybe some freezing rain. So very little snow fell on the west side. Very little fell below 3K or so. But it was the first significant snowfall of the year at Snoqualmie Pass. This is a overview of the current snow depth. You can see that recent snowstorm kind of in the Wenatchee, Leavenworth area dropped a good amount there. And then otherwise, we're seeing just pretty minimal snowpack on the west side, just a few inches, maybe above 3 or 4K, and in the Olympics. But then at the higher elevations in the North Cascades and the Northeastern Cascades, a decent snowpack, anywhere from 20 to probably 60 inches.
So we're going to look now at kind of what this weekend is bringing. We're looking at the full 4-day weekend. Tonight is Wednesday night, so we'll be looking Thursday through Sunday. And it's actually going to be a decent weekend, especially as we get later on. And there's still a little bit of uncertainty as well. So first, we're going to look at kind of our 3-hour precipitation for the west side and into the west side of the Cascades. And this is looking at kind of overnight Thursday night into um, overnight Wednesday night into Thursday. And Thursday is probably going to be our stormiest day with decently heavy precipitation, especially to kind of the south of Seattle. And it's going to spread throughout the area with most of it focused down kind of south of 90, but it will reach other places as well. So this is kind of jumping through. But we can kind of, so that's kind of looking at that. But I want to draw your attention if I can get this here. We'll bump it one at a time. So Friday looks actually relatively dry and somewhat sunny. It looks like some pretty nice weather. Now Saturday is a little bit uncertain at the moment. If you look over to the west, you'll see a little bit of precipitation off of the Olympic Peninsula. There's the possibility of kind of a weak storm coming through. I don't know if even storm is the right way, but it might bring some increased clouds and precipitation. I'll show you that on our other model in a second. But after Saturday, and you can see a little bit of this precipitation maybe moving through across the Olympics, maybe going down towards Mount Rainier. And then Sunday also looks like a pretty nice sunny day. I want to highlight this. So that was looking at our 3-hour precipitation. This is looking at our 24-hour kind of precipitation, but this is for the European model, which tends to be the most accurate. And this is moving through kind of Thursday and end of Friday. And so things start to clear out. And then you can see this weak sort of system kind of coming through possibly on Saturday. And you'll see that in this latest model run, which was run about 10 a.m. this morning, Wednesday morning, it kind of splits apart. So maybe we just have clouds on Saturday, or maybe there is a little bit of light rain and maybe even some light snow at the upper elevations coming through. So just be aware of that if you're getting out on Saturday. And then Sunday, kind of everywhere looks like pretty nice. In terms of total kind of accumulated precipitation, um, looks like, let me just refresh this. Looks like we should kind of be in about maybe the 1 inch frame to the south, maybe 1 to 2 inches in kind of the South Washington Cascades, especially on the west side. And then maybe up to about half an inch, quarter an inch, or to a half an inch, kind of in the North Washington Cascades and in the lowlands as well. Now, this is precipitation that we've been looking at so far. And we can also look at snow levels to see what is going to be happening with that precipitation, whether it's going to be falling as rain, as snow. So right here, this is 4 a.m. So this graph starts at 4 a.m. on Wednesday. Then we have 4 a.m. Thursday, Thanksgiving, 4 a.m. Friday, 4 a.m. Saturday, 4 a.m. Sunday, right here. And this is showing the snow level for the North Cascades. It's going to be pretty similar across the Cascades, at least across the Western Cascades, showing it's going to be generally in like this maybe 5 to 6,000 foot range, especially when the precipitation is falling. So just like last week, just like earlier this week, where not that much snow actually fell on the west side of the Cascades. It's actually going to be similar this week because it's going to be cooler on the east side, and we'll point that out in a second. Then we go into this drier period. This is kind of highlighting that chance for precipitation kind of in this area right here. And snow levels would be a little bit lower, so that's why we might see snow down to maybe 4 or 5,000 feet on the west side. And then we kind of bump up again with this new arriving precipitation, but that is after the weekend. Now, let's look at our kind of 24-hour accumulated snowfall. So as we move forward, we can see that this is going from 4 p.m. Wednesday to 4 p.m. Thursday on Thanksgiving. We can see that there's a decent amount of snowfall that's falling to the east because that is where the cold air is able to hold on longer. And there's also higher elevation. As we move forward to kind of another 24-hour increment, you can see that especially that kind of heavier precipitation has moved through across near, this is Mount Rainier right here, and to the east of Mount Rainier. And so that actually might be the big snowfall winners of this weekend. Um, as we move through later, it really drops off as we have that kind of dry day on Friday. Here's that chance of snowfall moving in on Saturday. And then as we move to Sunday, it really dries out and into Monday. Now, I also wanted to highlight kind of the clouds and what they're going to be doing to kind of really highlight that sunlight. So Thursday is going to be mostly cloudy. This is looking at 4 p.m. Thursday, that, like I said, is our stormiest day. Then it should clear out pretty early on Friday. It's going to clear out from the north, and most of the Cascades should be pretty sunny for Friday, especially in the morning before maybe some high clouds move through later in Friday. Then we have once again this kind of short wave dropping through, so maybe that weak system with a chance of precipitation, still uncertainty there. And then it should also clear out for a beautiful day on Sunday. One other thing I wanted to highlight is jumping back to our snowfall map right here. This area that has the highest snowfall does have the chance for some freezing rain. With that warmer air that's coming in, with that freezing level that's going up to like 5 or 6,000 feet on the west side. On the east side, it's going to be remaining maybe like 2 to 3,000 feet. So it's going to be remaining below freezing, but you could have some warm air moving over the top and leading to some kind of interesting conditions. So just be aware of that. And even if this suggests that a lot of this is going to be snow, there is a chance that some of this could kind of screw up the snowpack or fall as freezing rain. Um, I brought up Washington Pass just to highlight kind of some of the conditions that we might see up there. Washington Pass still is open, at least at the moment. And you can see that the National Weather Service does have temperatures at this about 5,600 foot level, so right at the pass. We're a little bit above the pass, staying below freezing this entire time, and pretty much all the precipitation falling as snow, with some sun breaks at times like those days that we mentioned, kind of that Friday and those Sunday, which looks to be the best weather. And then looking out to the future, um, it's been a slow start to this snow year, or at least it started really quickly, and then as Kyle was mentioning, we dropped down. Now we're just kind of in a holding pattern. Um, at least for the moment, the next week, maybe even 2 weeks, it looks to continue that. It doesn't seem that there's going to be any really big storms um, in that time frame, but December's still pretty far out, and we're hoping with kind of a weak La Nina at the moment that maybe our storm train will kick into gear and we'll get some heavy snowfall building up that snowpack that will allow those ski areas to open.
Well, thanks, and we have